Parakeh of the book of Shir Hashirim. So in the last chapter we had the garden was ready and the lovers were about to meet. This moment, if you want to understand it again, as a metaphor, as a Bnei Israel and God, they were going to meet. It was the spiritual moment. You had this uplifting moment in your life, and you're about to have this great experience with God. And they're in there, they're getting ready. And what is said here in verse 1, Bati lagani achoti chala. This is the lover, the man speaking. And he says, I've come to my garden. Ariti morim bisami achalti arim divshi shatiti yenim chalavi chlureim shatu v'shikru dodim. My own bride, I plucked my myrrh and spice, eaten my honey and honeycomb, drunk my wine and my milk. Eat lovers and drink of deep love. He's ready. He's at the garden. He's at the door. It's ready for them to be together. Finally, they've been prepared. There are those who say the end of chapter 4 is like the garden's supposed to be like their wedding, and he's there ready to be together with her. But then what happens? In verse 2, Ani yeshena v'libi er. What does she say back? It's the woman's fault. I was asleep. My heart was wakeful. Kol dodi dofek. My beloved knocks. Pitchili achoti rayati yonati tamati sheroshinim latal kavutsotai resise laila. My beloved knocks, let me in. My own, my darling, my faultless dove. For my head is drenched with dew, my locks with damp of the night. He was there, but she was sleeping. She wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to let him in. And I said a lot of this book so much about longing, about spiritual, about missed opportunities. And I said it before, the words kol dodi dofek, the voice of my beloved is knocking. Rabbi Soloveitchik writes about it at length, that is the idea of the state of Israel. We have to hear that call, whether we move to Israel, whether we're Zionists from afar. Can't forget Israel, can't forget Yerushalayim, can't be like those Jews that we described in the story of Esther and Mordechai. Others who see it back to Cyrus, when Cyrus allowed the Jews to return after the destruction of the first temple period, and talk about that in this chapter. But he was there outside. They were finally going to be together, but she was asleep. But what does she do? Now she realizes her mistake. Pashati et kutonti, eichecha el bashana, rachatzti et raglai, eichecha atan fame. I put on my robe, right? I'm getting dressed. I washed my feet. Was I to soil again? Right? I was all ready for you. But now she's going to get dressed. Dodi shalach yado min achor me'ai hamu alav. My beloved took his hand off the latch and my heart was stirred for him, right? He was there. I was sleeping. I wasn't ready. I was getting myself ready, but I wasn't ready. I know he was there. I missed the opportunity. And then what did he do? He took his hand off the latch. He moved away. And again, I know I've said this before. I think of these Chagall paintings, images, and those almost, it looks like, the lights of their, sort of like the Batman shining light into the air, where you have the lovers shining up in the sky, right? He left, he came, and thus she says, "Kamti ani liftoach ledodi v'yadi natfu mor v'etzbotai mor over al kapot hamnual." I rose to let in my beloved. My hands drip myrrh, my fingers flowing myrrh upon the handles of the bolt. I was ready for him to finally be together. Patachti ani ledodi v'dodi chamak avar nafshi yatsa b'davro. We're in verse 6. Bikashtihu velo mitzatihu karati velo anani. I opened the door, but he was gone. I was faint because of what he said. I sought, but found him not. I called, but he did not answer. And so much we have this phrase here in verse 6, Bakashti velo matzati. I looked for him, but I did not find him. There's a whole statement that Chabad has with this, where they talk about, based upon the Gemara, if somebody says Bakashti velo matzati al tamin, right? If you really searched, you'll find him. And here she with studying of Torah, but she was sleeping. She wasn't ready. And now she wants to find him. He's not there. And she goes in verse 7, Mitsauni ashomrim asovim bayer hikuni pitsauni nasuet redidi me'alai shomrei achomot. I met the watchmen who patrolled the town. They struck me. They bruised me. The guards of the wall stripped me of my mantle. Right? I was looking for him, and it's like she's out after curfew. And of course, if you understand this book on the secondary level, is this metaphor about the love of God and the Jewish people. These are the nations of the world. This is unfortunately the people who we have suffered in our relationship with God. We've suffered not because of God, but we've suffered because we've remained fervent. We've remained Jewish. We haven't accepted their offers, the offers of Muhammad, the offers of Martin Luther, their disgust when they thought, oh, we're going back to the Bible, the Jews are going to accept us, and when we didn't, their vengeance and anger at us. So the watchmen, they patrolled the town, they struck me down in my search then back for God. Hishbati atchem benot Yerushalayim. We've seen this verse a few times. The maidens of Jerusalem. Im timsa'u et dodi ma tagidu lo shecholat ava ani. And so she tries to call in some sort of these maidens of Jerusalem, these people who are on her side who in the past have asked her, what do you love him so much for? What is it about him? They'll ask her again. And she says to them, if you meet my beloved, tell him this, that I'm faint with love. I didn't hear the knock. It was my mistake. I missed the moment, but it's not because I don't love him. And then we have the response from verse 9, which is like a chorus, and it's the daughters of Jerusalem saying what I just mentioned. There's so many fish in the sea. What's so beautiful about your beloved? About him. You're such a great woman. How is your beloved better than any other? Right? Go to the other religions. What is so special? What does she say? My beloved is clear-skinned and ruddy, preeminent amongst 10,000. Those of you who in shul say Anim Zemirot, you recognize these words. This is, of course, where it's taken from in the descriptions of God in the, did I say Shir Hashirim? In the Anim Zemirot. His head is the finest gold. His locks are curled and black as a raven. Einav kionim afike mayim rochtzot bechalav yoshvot al mileit. His eyes are like doves by watercourses bathed in milk, set by a brimming pool. Lechayav ka'arugat habosem. Migdalot merkachim. Siftotav shoshanim notfot more over. His cheeks are like spices, banks of perfume. His lips are like lilies, they drip, flowing myrrh. Yadav galile zahab memulaim betarshish me'av. Eshet shen me'u lefet saf pirim. His hands are rods of gold studded with beryl. His belly a tablet of ivory. That's what they say about my six-pack. Adorned with sapphires, shokav amudei sheish musadim alad nepaz, mareu kulvanon bachur karazim. His legs are like marble pillars set in sockets of fine gold. He is majestic as Lebanon, stately as the cedars. We get back, of course, but I said many times, the book employs Israel, the Middle East, nature, and different things of those sorts. Chiko mamtakim v'chulo machmadim zedodi. His mouth is delicious, and all of him is delightful. Such is my beloved, such is my darling, O maidens of Jerusalem. And right, so what does she say? She says, describes his beauty, his body, his greatness, her admiration for him. And it's this longing, she misses him. But what's wonderful here, especially if we take it on that metaphor level, and not just as sort of erotic and the sexual or just even loving, is she is, if we talk about the Jewish people have reason to be upset at God. Many of us have kept very close to the mitzvot. Many of us have kept our tradition. We might not be perfect, but no human is perfect. And yet what has happened over time? The followers of Martin Luther and Chmielsky and the Holocaust and etc., pogrom, exile. And yet the Jewish people, despite all that, what do we say? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What is it that we say? What was that we say about God? Right? Shokav Amudei Sheish. What is it that we say about God? Me'av Eshet Shem Ulufot Sapirim Lachayav Karugot Habosem. We continue to describe the love of God, the greatness of God, even though our history at times, we have many reasons to say otherwise. It's like the joke in the Jon Stewart book, Democracy. God gives the Jewish people the Ten Commandments, foundational document in the history of democracy. And then he says, in this book, he writes, and since then, right, the Jews choose to do the mitzvot of God, and God promises to defend the Jewish people as his people. And since then, nothing bad has ever happened to them, is the joke that, of course, he makes. But this chapter says, despite all the disappointment, we still have this. The nations all around us, the watchmen are all around us, but we remain loyal to God and continue to describe him this way because our love and dedication is so great.